Hi everyone, Daniel here. Hope you're doing really good today. This is a reply to an email, actually two emails from Nick that I received one 2 days ago, one yesterday. Really, without further ado, here we will jump right in and read the first email that came 2 days ago. Hi Daniel, love your channel. I've had insomnia for about a year now. I have no issue falling asleep, but 7 nights a week for the past year. Wake up after 4.5 to 5 hours of sleep, unable to fall back asleep and feeling out of it. If I stay in bed a while longer, I might be able to squeeze another half hour in fragments, but that's the most. It's like my body won't let me sleep more. I've been through sleep studies and may have mild apnea, but I use CPAP anyways, and my numbers are good and I'm compliant every day. I'm trying CBTI, but have both a hard time staying awake till my sleep window and am exhausted when I wake going through the day, tired and in a fog. I haven't been very consistent with my treatment. I see a lot of videos about people having difficulty falling asleep, but not a lot about falling asleep easily, but having a terminal awakening. Was wondering if you see a lot of this in your work and if you have any tips or could do a video about this. I had the same type of insomnia about 8 years ago for over a year, but it just strangely went away without me seemingly doing anything, certainly not CBTI. I just briefly replied to Nick and that I would make this reply. And then he got back to me with a second email, which was yesterday. And he said, thanks for getting back to me. I'm trying CBTI right now, but it's very difficult. Sleep restriction is the hardest part because I'm very tired when I get up and dragging at work and sometimes fall asleep at my desk. Weekend afternoons are especially difficult because I just want to nap. I try to go to bed at midnight, but sometimes it's very hard to stay up, and I try to wake at 5:30 every morning. I have a 5.5 hour sleep window right now. I tried CBTI a while ago, but only lasted 3 weeks because I got very frustrated and anxious that I wasn't seeing any results, and I quit doing it. I know though that it is this time around I have to give it more time to work. A weird thing that happens when I wake a lot of times, I have a song snippet stuck in my head like an earworm. When I slept well in the past, I would usually sleep from about midnight to about 7. I would love to go back to that amount of sleep, and I know I'm capable of it, but it's frustrating that I can't do it now. It's really affecting my job, especially my life, living with this little sleep. I'm working with Martin as a sleep coach, but it's very difficult being stuck with so little sleep. It was thought I might have a morning tendency, but I was never a morning person. I guess I will get some peace in knowing that this is early morning awakening with the inability to go back to sleep is a problem that you've seen and can be treated with CBTI. Thank you. Struggling Nick. So first of all, Nick, thanks for reaching out to me. And just so I don't forget it, I just want to say right off the bat that, most people have both, like a hard time falling asleep and then staying asleep. Some people have mostly one. Some people only have a hard time falling asleep and then no problem once they have fallen asleep. Some people have a easy time falling asleep, but then wake up and can't fall back asleep. And I think the important thing here is that although insomnia manifests in many different ways, it's really always the same like underlying cause, which is hyperarousal. That you have gotten to a state where you're worried about your sleep and you're trying to get more sleep and you're doing various things to get more and better sleep, and it's really the the preoccupation, the worrying, the trying to get more sleep that is actually the reason that you have insomnia. And we'll talk more about that as we go along. But the reason I mentioned that was to say that absolutely, I've seen a lot of people that have trouble, like what you call terminal awakening, or some people call early or EMA, like early morning awakenings, or like sleep maintenance insomnia, or like trouble towards the early morning. Like, yep, definitely seen many patients with that, and that type of insomnia, if you want to call it a type of insomnia, it responds well to CBTI, just like actually any insomnia does. And you might have heard me say this before, but there's definitely a tendency when you have insomnia to think of it as a little bit bizarre, unusual, strange. Almost everyone that emails me has a reason to believe that they have a particularly unusual or a bit different type of insomnia. And here's the thing, like every human being is unique and special. Every person's insomnia will be a little bit different, but but it's actually not. It's like everybody just has ordinary insomnia. Some people have more fleeting, and some people have more entrenched, but it's all the same. And it's very helpful to think of your insomnia, I believe, as ordinary, because then you also know that the ordinary treatment, quote unquote, CBTI will work for you. It will work for you. And I'm not saying don't get me wrong, I'm not saying you should think of it as ordinary just because that's helpful. It's because it is. Like, all insomnia is the same. It comes from the same place. And so it always responds to CBTI if you can do it. It's not easy. It can be really, really hard. But a really encouraging thing that I've shared a couple times now, just since yesterday, really, which is I was going through my emails from people since I started this channel about 8 months ago, and I realized that every single person who didn't give up either has recovered or is like getting there. So basically, if you just keep going, you will get there. I feel, honestly, it's guaranteed. It's kind of like diet and exercise for weight loss. If you do it, you will lose the weight. It's like, if you do it, you will get better. No question about it. Now, going through, let's go back to your first email and get some more practical things, more detail here. One thing that I know you know this, but I think it's super important to point out, that in the past you slept from, maybe about 10 to 7, I think you said. You slept maybe around 7 hours or something like that. So that that you can sleep. There's nothing wrong, there's no sleep switch is broken or nothing wrong with you. And that's super important. No, you can sleep. Goes out to everyone out there. You can sleep. Now, second thing, I think, let's start here. So, you put in, there was a couple of things that I thought were really, really important. I have a hard time staying awake till I sleep when I'm exhausted. Not that part. Okay, let's start here instead. Sorry about that. You said, I had the same type of insomnia about 8 years ago for over a year, but I just strangely went away without me seemingly to do anything. When I read that, I was like, that's the answer. You didn't do anything. And that was why you got over that insomnia 8 years ago. We don't know how you got to a point where you were exerting less effort, you were trying less, you weren't doing anything, but that is the solution. Perhaps, this is just complete speculation, of course, but another a person that I've interacted with from the YouTube channel here, named Jonathan, he had like a big improvement in insomnia when he had like gastrointestinal problems like reflux, and he didn't think about it, but he became like really worried about his like GI health, and then he stopped like kind of worrying about insomnia, and then it became much better. So perhaps 8 years ago there was some kind of distraction, something else that took your attention, and then it just like strangely went away. So that's one important point. And now there was another really important point I wanted to make, actually a couple more things. Let's go back to your second email. And you said, I'm just going to, from memory, say this, that there was something you wrote that I usually get up at this time, but then I would stay in bed and try to squeeze a little bit more sleep out. And then you also say here that, you really have an inability to fall back asleep. And there was one more thing, you're saying like, I would really want to go back to getting 7 hours again. All these things that I just mentioned are expressions of how you want more sleep, as in like more hours of sleep. That, your desire to get more hours of sleep is definitely 100% keeping you from getting more sleep. And this is because I say this is super important. Your goal has to be to feel better, to be happy, and just enjoy life. And if that is your goal, it will keep you from thinking about like how many hours of sleep you're getting, from clock watching, from like overthinking, from analyzing, from figuring out what's going on, from changing things, from tweaking, from this and that. All that stuff is terrible, and it keeps the insomnia going. But if you shift away from that and you're like, okay, I have a sleep window and it's from this hour to this hour, and apart from that, I'm just gonna like not think about sleep. I'm just gonna think about how can I be happy and live a great life. That will paradoxically give you those 7 hours. If you're focused on like how can I get to those 7 hours, that leads to clock watching, it leads to self-monitoring, it leads to worrying, it leads to preoccupation, it leads to more insomnia. So it's really, really, it's a tricky thing to do, but your goal has to shift from getting a certain number of hours of sleep to feeling great and having a fantastic life. That is like the most important thing here. Now, another practical thing, I'm super happy working with Martin. He's my good friend. I think he is brilliant. I think he has I learned a lot from him. So definitely whatever he tells you to do, I would say do that. Of course, you have a more, he's your coach. You have a much more close relationship with him than with me at this point. But I don't think what I'm going to say, I don't think he would disagree with that a lot. Meaning, it seems like you really struggle to stay awake, but then you also wake up early. So one strategy, I think Martin would agree here, would be to say, okay, let's say you have a 5.5 hour sleep window. Well, maybe 6.5 hours before that sleep window, so an hour before the sleep window begins, if you will, then stop looking at the time and just go by like emotion. Like if it's I'm just gonna spit something out here. Let's say you're supposed to stay up till midnight. Well, 11 p.m. then stop looking at the time. And if you feel like, you know what, I really feel sleepy, go to bed. And if you then wake up and you feel like I feel pretty alert, then try to leave the bedroom and do something that's keeping you from being frustrated, something that's as enjoyable as possible. Don't look at the time at all, and then just have like some kind of alarm set for that wake up time in the morning, and just like see what happens. And this a lot of people feel like that takes a little bit of pressure off from that narrow sleep window. And for people like yourself that struggle to stay awake, it can allow you to actually sleep a little bit earlier. And so that's that one. And then now, and I think this might be the final point I'm making, is like a lot of people feel like the big issue is the inability to go back to sleep. And of course that is a part of the problem. But here's the thing. You cannot make yourself sleep. And when people are like looking at an early morning awakening as a problem of like, I just can't go back to sleep there, that it's also on the wrong path. That's like you're trying to find something that will make you sleep, and trying to sleep, finding something to make you sleep, etc., also is the wrong path. That leads you down to like preoccupation and worrying. So it's in this point, like this is another hard one but really important one: acceptance. Like if you wake up and you feel like super alert, you're not going to fall back asleep again, you have to accept that at that point in time, it's not time to sleep, and you have to do something that is, keeping you keeping you not frustrated. And then just like when you feel sleepy, then it's time to sleep. And I think this is going to be my final point here. Acceptance is very different from resignation. It's not like you're like, okay, I can't sleep, it's terrible, like I've given up. No, it's just like it's raining outside or it's sunny outside. It's not time to sleep right now, and it will be. And that's I think that was the last one. So Nick, I hope this was helpful. And again, I hear nothing that is like of any concern. I'm confident that if you just keep on going, you will get to a place where you have a really happy, great life. And and also as you're trying to get there, living a happy, active life, you will start sleeping amazing. If you have any follow-up questions, just shoot me an email. Anybody else out there has any questions, as always, email me, daniel@insomniainsight.co, and I will talk to you and hear back from you, I hope, very soon. Until then, you take it easy.